Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to Laratips. In our previous videos, we have discussed about eloquent model. So in this video, we'll be talking about eloquent relationship. Most of the time in a real life project, two tables or more than two tables are related to each other. Let's say a post can have many comments, a product can have many reviews, a user can have one profile. So in this way, they are linked to each other. So there are a lot of ways we can define the relationship. So there can be one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many. You can see a bunch of lists over here. But in today's video, we'll be talking about one-to-one relationship. Let's say there is a users table and there is a profiles table. And a user can have only one profile and he or she cannot have more than one profile. Then we can define a relationship between them using one-to-one relationship because one user can have only one profile. So let's get into it. Okay, by default, we have users model in our Laravel application. So we'll be using that and we'll be creating a new profile. So which I have already created. I'll be showing you here. So here is a profile model and here is a profiles table. So which will be related to the users table by using a foreign key, which we have already seen this in our migrations video. So here I have defined a foreign key as a users table. So we can relate this table, profiles table, with users table. Then it has a bunch of other fields like phone, city, postcode, and country. I have made this nullable so that I could show you one more example in the relationship. Then in the users table that we have everything that we get with the Laravel, and this is admin field. This one we added in our previous video. So we have these two tables and also I have seeded some data here. There are 10 users and each user have a profile. So you can see here user 1 to 10. We have a user ID here and the user's ID here also. We have 1 to 10. So each user has one profile. So these data are already seeded. Okay, now I'll show you how to define a relationship. Okay, here if we go to the users model and here we can define a relationship like this. We can give it a name as profile and we can return a relationship from here. So we can return a relationship like this. This has one profile because a user has one profile. So it has the syntax as a human readable. So we can easily understand that by seeing this method that a user has only one profile. Okay. Now, if we define it like this, so by default, Laravel follows a convention. If we define here a profile, then it will look into the profiles table in the plural form. So we have that here, the profiles table. Yeah. And the second parameter we can give it here as a foreign key, which is the foreign key in the profiles table. So in the profiles table, we have foreign key as a user ID. And if we don't provide here any foreign key, the Laravel will look at this table, this model table, since there is a user and the table name is users. It will by default consider the second parameter, the foreign key, as user underscore ID, the singular user. So if we have any other column name rather than the foreign key as the ID, as the user ID, suppose let's say we have here as the author ID, then for that we have to write here author underscore ID, otherwise it will not work. So since we are following the convention, so we don't have to write anything here. But if we want to write, then we can write here user underscore ID. It will work the same way. Writing the user ID here and not writing here will work the same way because we are following the convention, because we are making a column in the profiles table which has a user underscore ID. So in this way, we can define a has one relationship in the users model. If we do this, then we can access this profile. Okay, so let me go here in the Tinkerwell and let us find a user find with an ID of 1. If we do this, then we'll get the user with the ID of 1, which is here in the database. And if we look here in the profiles table, the user ID, for the user ID one, this is the profile. The data related to the profile is here. So how to access that relationship? So since it is returning a relationship, we can access this relation as a simple property of the model. Let's say now if we want to access the profile, then we can simply say profile profile here, and if I reload here, then you can get all the data of the profile. Now you can see here it is returning app models profile, and here you can see here the country name is Ireland, and you can see here the country name is Ireland. Let's say we, for the user ID of the 5, let's say we want to see its profile, then we do like this. Then we can see here the country name is Marshall Island, then here also we can see the country name is Marshall Island. So in this way we can access a relationship, has one relationship from the model. Now we have defined a relationship user has one profile, but a profile also belongs to a user. Since a user has one profile, so the profile belongs to a user. So now we can also define a relationship in the profile. So if we go to the profile, then we can define a relationship like this. So it's a belongs to relationship. So we can give it, since a profile belongs to a user, we can give the name, method name as a user, and return a relationship. So this relationship must be this belongs to a user. Okay, so here also there is one convention. So this we are writing here user, yeah, in the profile. Let's go to the profiles table here. So there is a user ID. So if we write the name as a user, then it will take this second parameter as user underscore ID. Yeah, so by default we already have this user ID in the column, and we want that to be the case, so we don't have to write anything again. Let's say we have author ID here, then we have to pass here author underscore ID, then only it will give us the relationship. So now if I go to the profile, let's say now I am accessing profile model. Let's say I am finding the third one. Yeah, if I reload here, it will give me the profile model here. Now if we go here in the profile, and here in the third ID of the profile is related to the user with the ID 3, and if I go here, the ID 3 is this. And to access this also we have similar syntax, so we can do user here like this. So you can see here we are getting a user model, and it is returning the same message to one. So if we see here in the database, so you can see here the name of the user is user here, and here is same. So let's say now if we give it a name as author, yeah, now to access this, so we are in the profile model, yeah, here is author method belongs to relationship, and if we go here and if we give it here author name, now if I return here, it will return null, because the Laravel will think that in the profiles table there is author underscore ID column, and it will try to access the author from there. But in here we have user underscore ID, so we have to define here the column name, so which is user underscore ID. So if we want to give any other name other than user to the method name, then we have to define the foreign key here. If we do it like this, then if we go here and reload, now you can see here we can get the user of the related profile. Okay, this is how you access relationship from a single model. Now let's see how to access the data from multiple models. Okay, let's say I am getting all the user data. So if I do it like this, then I can get all the user models. So currently there are 10 models, so I am getting all the 10 models. So as you can see here, all 10 models are shown. Now to load the relationship here, what we can do is, so let me show you this using the browser, and I will also show you some problems with it and how to fix that problem. So if I am here in the home page, and let me go to the web.php here in the home page, in the home controller, inside the index method, and let us get all the, let's say, users. Here we can pass it directly here like this, user get, yeah? And we can loop into the users and show their name here. Let's say the empty4. Yeah, this is some tailwind classes. So what we can do is we can loop into the user, since we have passed the users here, so we can loop into that and show the users. For each users as user, and we can show some user here. Okay, border bottom. Okay, now we can see here we have 10 users, yeah? And if we see here in the debug bar here and below, so only one query has been run. Now let us try to access the profile. Okay, now from the profile, what we want is we want to show the users city and the country name. So what we can do is we can do, so we have a user model. Now to access the profile from the user, we have already seen before, so we can just access it as a normal property. So it will return a profile model, the profile of that user. And now we can access the property of the profile. So here in the database we have city, and we can also access country. So for now let us only try the city. Okay, so if we go in the browser and we refresh the page here, now you can see here we are seeing the city for all the users. Yeah, now here if we go in the queries, so it is running now 11 queries, which is creating n+1 problem. So n+1 means basically there are 10 users and each user has a profile. So if we loop through it, then it will take, so this one query is this one. From the n+1, 1 means this query which is getting all the users, yeah, this, and the n means total number of profiles for each user. Yeah, so to get the profiles of each user, we are creating one request per user. So there are n users, so we need to perform n number of queries to get the profiles. So it is saying n+1. So because of that, it is said as n+1. So we are getting n+1 queries. So the beginners will not realize this, since they will not know about the tools like this debug bar, and they will not know how many queries is being run, and it will, if the number of the users, or the, let's say these are the number of products that we are showing in a website, then it will hit the performance of the website. So now there is a solution for this as well in the Laravel. So let's see how to solve this. We can solve this by using eager loading. Now if I go in the Tinkerwell, now to eager load, what we can do is we can pass with here. Yeah, okay, I'll show you this in the documentation as well. If we go into in the Eloquent relationship, in the Eloquent ORM under relationship, if we go here in the eager loading, now you can see here we can load the relationship like this. So we have a relationship name as profile. So in this case the relationship name is author. So here Laravel is writing here in the documentation there is author, but we have a relationship name as profile, so we have to write profile here. So if I do here like this and pass profile, now you can see here we are getting only users. Yeah, but if I execute this, then you can see here we are getting this extra profile information. So we will also get the profile along with the users. Now let's see what query is run by the Laravel when we execute this. So now let's go into the home controller and run this as well with. So we can access we can write the syntax like this, or we can also write the syntax like this. Yeah, so we have multiple relationship, then we can pass it like this. Yeah, so just to be consistent with it, either pass it as a parameters or pass it as an array. So let us be consistent and only pass it as an array. So passing the multiple parameters seems more relevant with the arrays, so I'll be using arrays here. So if you want to pass it as a parameter, then just be consistent and use like that in every part of your project so that it will be easier to debug. Okay, now let's see what happens. So we have just added with profile here. Yeah, so it will now eager load the profile. Now if I go, now you can see here it is running this 11 queries. Yeah, now if I hit refresh here, now look here, the queries has been reduced to 2 only. So it is getting the users, all the users, yeah, and it is applying those IDs in the profiles and getting the profiles of those users. So it is basically performing where in the MySQL. Yeah, it is getting all the users and getting all the profiles where in the user ID is those all that got from here. So basically we will only get the 2 queries here. So Laravel is not performing any kind of join, yeah, or inner join or cross join. It is not performing anything. It is just getting the users and grabbing those IDs and getting the profiles for each users. So these queries will run and our performance will be increased. So let's say in the home page, basically for an e-commerce website, we'll be showing lots of products in the home page. Yeah, there can be lots of categories, lots of products, lots of sections in the home page. So which will be showing lots of products, and in each product, if we grab, let's say category, we want to show the categories of each product, then there will come the issue of this n+1 problem everywhere. So which will cause your application to be slow. So if we use the eager loading, then our application will be very fast. So if you seed a lot of data in this users and profiles table and see here the execution time and the RAM usage, then if you eager load, then it will be really low. And if you don't eager load, then it take a lot of time to load this page. And now we have seen how to define a relationship and inverse relationship. Inverse means belongs to relationship. And we have seen a lazy loading. Also, let me show you, we can do this in another way as well. Let's say in some cases you already have the users models. Yeah, you have already received the user models, and in that case also you can pass a parameter by which you can load the relationship. So this is known as lazy loading. So previously what we did is known as eager loading. Yeah, now this is known as lazy loading, since we are loading after getting the data. So what we can do is load and give the relationship name as profile. Yeah, and if I go in the browser, refresh it, then you will see we are getting the same queries. And if I show you here in the Tinkerwell as well, if I go here get, and if I do here load, and if I say profile and reload here, you can see here the result is same. So we can eager load as well as we can lazy load. We have seen that. Now let's see how to check whether a relationship exists in a model or not. So let's go to the documentation. For that, I'll show you where it is. So if I go here in the documentation, and you can see here querying relationship, and here we can see here all these things Laravel has in the documentation. Now here is the querying relationship existence. So there is has method in the model instance which we can use to check whether a relationship exists in a model or not. Okay, let's see this in action using Tinkerwell. Now here in our database, for each user there is a relationship here, and let's see whether the results will be the same or not. Okay, now if we do here has profile, so if we do it like this, so user has profile get, then it will get all the users that have profile with them. So if the user that don't have a profile, then it will not get the results. So for this, so if we return it here, now we'll get all those 10 results. So just to check here, I'll do count here. So this count method that we have learned in our collection video, so if we do it, then it will give us the total results that we have got. So we have 10 users here. Yeah, that's true, because we have all the users having the profile. So now let us remove these two, 9 and 10. Okay, here now I have removed these profiles. So now the user with 1 to 8 ID have a profile, and 9 and 10 do not have any profile. Now if I go here and let me return the count here, so now it should return 8. Now if I reload here, now you can see here we are getting 8. Now if I remove the count here, if I reload here, now you can see here IDs, you can check the IDs. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8 IDs are shown, and 9 and 8 users are not shown. So have a look, we are, the return model is users model, and it is returning a collection of users model, so that we could perform all those eloquent collection methods on it, and which are really handy. So here we can get all the users that have a profile. Now there is also another method which will check the absence of the relationship. By using that method, we can get all the users that don't have profile. So we say doesn't have. So user doesn't have a profile, get those users. Now if I refresh here, now you see we'll be getting those users, 9 and 10 ID that we, of those users we deleted profile, so those will be available here. So as I said previously, I intentionally made this nullable here, so just to show you one thing here. So okay, so it is saying here doesn't have. Okay, let me make here, let me use has for this, okay, because it has a lot of data. And if I show you in the database for all these 8 users, now we can see here there are 3 fields that are null, and other all fields are not null. Now we can also get the results by this. So we want to get all the users that have filled this postal code, and we don't want to get all the others users. Now we can do it like this. So here user has profile, and here we can pass a second parameter function, and it will get a query builder, and here we can perform the eloquent query builder method. So let's say query where, so it will perform a query in the profiles table, okay, not in the users table but in the profiles table. So we want to get only those users that have filled their postal code, so post postcode. So if postcode, so there is a handy eloquent model method for this, where not null, which will check whether this postcode is null or not. So it will only return those that having a postcode that is not null. Okay, now if I refresh here, so it is saying expects parameter 1 to be string. So this is not a has, we have to use where has method for this. Where has, it will get the users where it has a profile, where having a postal code, only that. So if I refresh here, now you will see here it is getting all the users that have a profile which have the postal code filled in. And if we see here, the total number of users is 1 2 3 4 5, and those ideas 1 2 3 5 7. And if we see here IDs of the user, this is 1, we can see here 1, and this 2, this 3 is also filled, and this 5 is filled, and this 7 is filled. So it is returning those, and it is not returning this, those have the null. Now we can, so let's say we only want to show the users who haven't entered their postal code, then what we can do is where null. And if I refresh here, you can see here, so these 4 users don't have this postcode filled in, then so those users have the ID of 4 6 and 8, and you can see here 4 6 and 8. It has returned these users who haven't the postal code data filled in. So like this you can perform the where has in the relationship. So there is also where doesn't have method here, but we can use that in the other relationship. So in one-to-one relationship, there a user can have only one profile, so that method is not relevant here. So we'll be using that method in our one-to-many relationship in our future video. Okay, we have seen here how to define a relationship and checking the existence of the relationship and reloading, eager loading the relationship and minimizing the n+1 problem. Now let's see how can we store data using the relationship. Yeah, so before that let me show you something. So we have deleted 2 profiles from here. Now if I go in the browser and refresh the page, it should give us some error. Okay, let me show you here. Yeah, you can see here trying to get the property city of non-object. So trying to get the property of something, this is the most common problem that many people or many beginners face. Yeah, even the developers who have worked for several years, they will also face this issue because this is very common in Laravel. So this is happening because I'll show you here, because we are looping through all the users, yeah, all the 10 users. Now if we come here, so if all the 1 to 8 users, all the users with the ID from 1 to 8 have profile, and 9 and 10 do not have any profiles. Yeah, for up to 8 it will work fine, and when it comes to the user with the 9 ID, it will try to access the profile and it will return null here. Okay, if I show you here user with profile and get here, now if we see here, yeah, you can see here the profile is null. Yeah, and if we try to get a property from here, then it is saying trying to get the property of non-object, since profile is null, which is not an object. So here we are trying to access the city from a null, so it is saying that we are trying to access a property from a non-object field, so which is valid error. So to fix this issue, we can do multiple things. So there is an optional helper in Laravel. We can use it like this, optional. So if we wrap anything within the optional and we access any property from here, it will always return null. Yeah, so this is one way of doing it. So if we write any name, so we give it any name, city or anything or any method here, yeah, it will always return null. So let us try city here for now. And if I go to the browser and refresh the page here, let me minimize this, and you can see here it is not giving us any error, and here it is not giving us city. So in the all of them above are of 3 lines, and these 2 are only of the 2 lines because they don't have city. So this way we can work. So and for the PHP 7 and above, I think we have null coalescing operator, so which is double question mark. Yeah, so what we can do is do it like this, or let's say no. So we can give it a default name like this. So if it throws any error while trying to access the property, then it will not throw the error. It will fall back into this second part of this double question mark thing, and it will display this. Basically what this does is, in the 2 cases it will fall back to this case. If anything in the left side is null, then it will print this, and if it throws any error or exception, then it will fall back to this. Okay, so in our case it is throwing an exception, so it will fall back to this. Now if I go here and refresh the page, now you can see here we are getting no city. So we don't want to do any of these things, then we can, there is also another way of doing this. So let me remove this, and if we go to the relationship, so we are accessing a profile relationship from the user. So let's go to the user model and in the profile section. So what we can do is here with default, yeah, we can pass this without any parameter. If we pass here without any parameter, then it will return a new profile. If a user doesn't have any profile, it will return a new profile object. Okay, we have done it like this. Now let me go to a Tinkerwell. Now you can see here in the above we have this profile model, and the data is filled in here, and in these two the data is profile is null. Now we have passed with default. Now if I refresh here and go at the bottom, now you will see here we are getting an object, a profile object, and it is filling this user ID. Since it is related to this user, so this user ID is filled in here. So we are not getting a null, we are getting a profile object, profile model object. And if we go here in the browser here, and if we refresh the page, so it will not throw us any error, because if we try to access any property from the model and it doesn't have that property, then it will always return null. Yeah, so here we'll not see any data here. So let's say, as in the previous case, we want to show some default value, those users that don't have any profile or city. Then what we can do is here we can pass the default values also. So let's say we want to name the default city as let's say London. Then now let me go to the Tinkerwell first, and if I refresh here and go at the bottom, now you can see here it is passing the city as well here. So in the profile we have multiple things like city, postcode, country. All these fields can be passed here. Let's say for that, let us pass country. I don't know whether London is city or country. Okay, let's say country as England. Yeah, and if I go in the Tinkerwell here and if I refresh here, and you can see here it will pass the country as well. Now if I go in the browser here and if I refresh here, now you will see here if the user doesn't have a city in a profile, then it will by default show a London. Yeah, by default you would show no city in the real scenario, but in this I am showing you that you can pass anything there and it will be displayed here. And also if we access the country from here, then it will also give that country that we have passed in the default parameters. Okay, so these are the three ways how you can minimize that trying to get the property of non-object error. Okay, we have dealt with it. Now let's see how to save a profile from a user model using the relationship. Okay, now here if we go into the Tinkerwell, let's do that from here as well. Let's say we have a user with an ID of 9 here, and if we can find it like this, and user will be shown here. Since the user doesn't have a profile because we deleted, now we can save a user. So I will show you first without using a relationship and then using a relationship. Yeah, because we have already seen how to save a model, save a data to a database using model, so we can use that way also. So profile is equals to, we can say new profile. Yeah, and we can pass the parameters like this. Here in the database we can see here it's user underscore ID is equals to, let's say, $9 profile. Yeah, we can pass all the parameters like this, and we can save. Since I have already shown this type of things in my previous video, so I'll just be telling you how to perform this. So we can save in a database like this. Yeah, but now let's see how to store it using a relationship. So if we don't use a relationship, then we have to pass the user ID. We know that we are creating a profile for a user, but in this case what we have to do is we have to pass the user ID as well. But let's do it by using relationship. Now to do that, what we can do is user profile here. If we pass a method here, so if we don't pass it as a method, then we'll get a that default, since we are getting this, since we have added this in a default value, yeah, otherwise we would have got null. So we'll get a profile object like this, and if I do it like this method, then we'll get here, you can see here, has one relationship instance. Yeah, if we go in the users model, now you can see here the profile, we are returning the has one. Yeah, so if we go it inside the has one, so you can see here it is returning this illuminate database eloquent relationship has one. So we can see that in here. Yeah, so this is basically the query builder. This also extends the eloquent query builder. Now we are getting a builder instance. Now we can call here create like this, and we can pass the parameters here. Yeah, so what if we do it like this, then user underscore id, we should not pass that, so it will by default be added by the Laravel. Yeah, so we have to pass other fields except user id. So if we go here in the database, then we'll see here it's a phone. Now if we try to save it like this, then we'll get exception that we have looked in our previous video, which is mass assignment exception. Okay, let's try this. Now you can see here it is giving us mass assignment exception because we haven't added these fields in the in the fillable property inside the profiles model. Since we are saving profile from here, so it will look into the profiles model and in the fillable property, so it is not getting anything, so it is throwing this error. Okay, now let's go to the profile model here. Now we can define here protected fillable is equals to, now we can give the name of all these phone, city, postcode and country. Yeah, we can do that, but there is another property that I forgot to mention in my previous video, which is guarded. So if we do here protected guarded and give it an empty value, so it will disable the mass assignment. Yeah, if we are very careful, then we don't need this mass assignment feature from the Laravel. Here in this case, we are passing only this specific data. We are not passing like that we have seen in my previous video, like request all. We are not doing that. We are passing the specific values, so there is no any danger of any other data being filled in our database. Yeah, only this columns will be filled. Any other field, if there are any other fields, then they will not be filled. So there is no issue if we disable this mass assignment and if we carefully save the data in the database. Yeah, so now if I refresh here, now you can see here it is returning the profile model, means the data is saved. Now if we go here, so for the user id 9, there should be a profile inside the profile table. So currently there is no profile for the user id 9. Now if I refresh here, now you can see here for the user id 9, the data is here and all those data are that we have entered here. Okay, now if we access the profile from here, now you can see here we can get that profile. We are not getting London and England, we are getting the actual relationship. So in this way we can create profile from the users model using the relationship. Now let's see how to update that. So we can do in the similar fashion, user profile update. Yeah, before we did create, now we are doing update. So what we want to update is, let's say postcode. We want to change the postcode to 1111 here. Okay, now if I refresh here, it is giving us 1 because only one row is updated, so it is giving us 1. So let's say we have a one-to-many relationship and we are updating multiple rows, then it will give us the number of rows that is updated. Yeah, so create return the model that has been created, and update will return the number of rows that are affected by this query. Now if we go here, now there is we can see here now 111. If I refresh, now you can see here this is updated. Yeah, and this updated add field is also changed. Now you can see here in every other rows they are same and here they are different. Now let's say if we again change it to, let's say 2222, And if I refresh here, now if you closely look at this field and this field, these two will be changed. Yeah, you can see here it is changed and it is changed. Yeah, because every time a model is updated, Laravel will automatically update this updated add field with the current timestamp. So we have seen how to create and how to update a related model. Now let's see how to delete. So that's also very simple. We can simply call delete. So this is only has one relationship, so a user can have only one profile. So if we perform this action user profile and delete, it will delete that profile. So if I run this query, so it is again returning the one because only one row is affected. Yeah, and if I go here, now this should be removed here. If I refresh, so now you can see here that row is deleted. So this is how you perform a create, edit and delete using has one relationship. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you like this one. So in our next video we'll be talking about has many relationships, so one to many relationship. So if you like this video, then please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and also hit subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. So thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.